pace with Kristaps and Jrue?
I mean, Drew's good. He went through practice today. Hopefully, he seemed to be fine. KP went up and down a little bit today. We'll see how he responds tomorrow, but he's progressed really well, and we expect him to be ready. I don't want to put words in his mouth, so I'm not sure what he said, but he looked good out there today.
How has the involvement, kind of the activity of Jrue in the offense, kind of meant what you wanted to be earlier this year? I think he's at a career low, or since his rookie year. Does he need to be a little bit more involved?
It all depends on what the matchups are and what we're trying to attack. And so I know in the first half we went to some post-ISO spacing for him, probably something we could have went back to. He did a great job in that. And so, when obviously you come to a team where the matchups are going to constantly be different, it's between him and Derek on handling, and then it's, he's continuing to get better at screening, which is something he hasn't always done at the end of games, is being a guy that can be a playmaker in the seam. And so we've gone to some of that. But, yeah, we can all just be better at our execution at the end of the games, and the more our playmakers are involved, the better we'll be at executing.
You wanted to force more turnovers this year.
How's that going?
Not great. What needs to change for you guys to not be near the bottom of the league?
Yeah. It's a tough one. You had something that you have to really, really commit to consistently. And, it's a matter of, what's the DNA of our defensive identity versus, what can we realistically be really good at over the long period of time. And so it's something that we're still working to do with some of our defensive adjustments. I still, obviously you can always get better at the little things, your ball pressure, your active hands, try to get deflections. But we've cleaned up a lot of other areas that we haven't been great at over the years, like our offensive rebounding, our crashing and stuff. And so, just really deciding, is it the true DNA of our team, or is it more about can we just get better at having some different adjustments that we can go to and be good at those?
Yeah, how do you kind of evaluate that? Because obviously you guys are one of the best defensive teams in the league. But then you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage sometimes, especially the other night. It's like 18 turnovers for you.
To 6, yeah.
For
Yeah, so I look at that and I say, what's better? What's the more DNA of our team? What can we realistically get better at and coach? Because you can't even control forcing turnovers. You almost have to sell out to that, so to speak, or have certain type of guys where for us it's we can get better at our decision making, our offensive execution, which keeps our turnovers down. We've really grown in our crashing and our offensive rebounding, so we found a couple other areas to help control the shot margin. And so I think it's focusing on what makes sense and what puts our team in the best position to be successful.
What do you look at in terms of the offense? I think you guys started third or fourth, down to 9 now. Last 8, 9 games. A lot of it seems to be turnovers. But what are other things you're seeing that are kind of pulling the offense down? Right?
Turnovers. Sometimes the answer is right there. It's just turning the ball over, which can come from a bunch of different things, right? So your turnovers can be your decision making in transition. It can be not generating an advantage on the type of screen, and then you're playing 5-on-5 for the whole possession, and then you don't get the read isn't as easy. And so I think it comes down to just being able to execute versus different coverages, being able to get advantages with our screening, and then when we're in 2-on-1 situations, making the right play.
Kristaps was just saying he thinks you guys may sometimes need to do a better job of finding those mismatches and kind of executing against them. What have you thought about how you guys are doing that? What's kind of the key to having that run smoothly in that short time?
No, it's true. And some of that is when he's playing and teams are switching, the mismatches, the small being on him, so we have to really do that. Obviously we go back to playing 5 or 6 games without him. Those matchups are going to be different. We missed a couple of those. But even when we are, it's we have to do a better job of forcing those mismatches and not just thinking that the other team is going to give them to us. So we may be running the right action. We just don't run it with the physicality and the screening advantage that we need to force the matchup that we want.
Joe, it seems like at the end of the games, when you're at your worst, you're playing to the other team's pace. You're kind of getting caught up in their speed. First of all, is that accurate? And secondly, how do you get away from that kind of play and dictate your own pace?
I thought we dictated the pace of the game in the first half really well, and most kind of the fourth quarter. The third quarter we did not. And by that it's can we play at the level of where we're keeping teams out of transition? We're playing 5-on-5 and half-court defense, and then we're executing on the offensive end. So I thought the third quarter was where we got away from it, and it's because of our lack of offensive execution. By our screening and our decision making that we got to clean up.
It seems like there's a tendency to answer the other team versus go down and kind of run your offense. What you talk about getting to the matchups and getting that stuff. How do you when you see that getting away? How do you get that back?
Seriously, I think it's more about forcing. So we did a great job of involving the matchups that we wanted in the Indiana game. We didn't do a great job of executing to get the easier 2-on-1. And so, like, if they're in a show or a maintain, we have to be physical on our screens to make sure that they can't recover back to the guy and play 5-on-5. Like, that's just the physical screening, holding screens, forcing switches. And so it's like the organization's there, the execution's got to grow. And that was the big point of emphasis in practice today, is like, how do we execute our screening versus different coverages versus different personnel to get exactly what we want.
How much do you keep an eye on someone like Jordan when they go up to Maine, and what would you want him to be working on up there so he can contribute?
A decent amount. We get an email after every game. Our Craig, our guy, works with our player development, and Blaine are in constant communication, and then we have constant development checklist of kind of what's important to us, where we want him to be at the end of the season, where we want him to be in a year from now. So it's just that you're trying to create that culture of development and understanding of like what you're doing up there matters. It's really important. And it's both, right? Like, we want you to develop, but we also want you to enjoy the game. So how can you go about just doing that?
Is there something you'd like in one area that you kind of stress to him going up there?
Defense, and just finding ways to impact the game without scoring.
A couple of the guys talked about, this team has a lot of room to grow, and that's something that they discovered, in this in-season tournament. How would you describe where you'd like to see this team grow, just, in the near future?
Yeah, the fact that we have that mindset is growth, and that's something that we have to keep. And I think it's very easy to, when you have the talent that we have, you have the record that we have, it's easy to kind of just sit there and relax and just kind of, be on autopilot. But I think you have to find that healthy balance of like, we're okay, but we have to get better. And like, it could be something different every 5 games. It doesn't matter. What matters is like we keep the open-mindedness to like, just because we're good doesn't mean we can't get better. We got to be really hard on ourselves on what the standard is of what it looks like to grow. And so like this next 5 to 10 games is, how can we really get better at our screening, physicality, creating those advantages. Defensively, it's like, can we continue to work on our 2-3 different things that we want to go to? And then it's like every 5 to 10 games, can we reassess like, hey, we're doing this well, we got to get better. And so I think the fact that we even have that open-mindedness is a really good start.
Thank you.
Thank you.